episode 13 of the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast with Conrad and Zyler. I'm Brennan, and the Red Raiders are fresh off of a victory at Arizona, a key road win to be 3-0 in the conference and first place and 5-1 overall. It sounds too good to be true almost, gentlemen, but that is the reality of where we're at halfway through our season. And Conrad, Zyler, how are we feeling? And Z, you go first, man. I don't think we thought we'd be here 6 weeks ago, but here we are. How you doing today? And what's your excitement level around the football team?
Yeah, especially after the Washington State game, if you would have told me that we were going to reel off 4 wins in a row, I would have thought that to be a 1 percentile outcome. That was not necessarily on my bingo card. Really impressed with the team last night. I thought they found a really unique way to win the game. I actually think they played better, and I think they deserved to win that game. But super excited for the team, super happy for them. You've lost so many games like that over the past decade. It's nice to see some of them kind of, break your way. This bye week couldn't have come at a better time. I'm hopeful that the boys get rested up and they're ready to kind of continue the season on this, upward trajectory that we're on.
Yep. Conrad?
Things are going well. I mean, Zyler nailed it. If you would have told me this a month ago, I would not have believed you. But we're here, and I'm not gonna wish we weren't. So 5-1, 3-0 in the Big 12, top of the league. It's something that we need to be cool on a little bit and act like we've been here before. But the reality is we haven't, at least in a long time. So we need to enjoy it while we're here.
Yeah, you haven't been here since 2013, so it's been a decade of struggle to get to 5-1, 3-0 in conference, moving into the month of October. But nonetheless, we are all very excited about this opportunity. And Conrad, each and every week, man, we have something called the Kool-Aid Factory. And so if you are a loyal listener of the show, you by now know that we have been cooking up some Tucson tea for this week. And I woke up like 4:30 in the morning to a knock on my door with a big package of Tucson tea, man. And I ordered it, it got in, I was chugging it, and it worked off. So if you're new, we have a Kool-Aid Factory where we continue the hype train of Texas Tech football. And Conrad is our CEO. And so, Conrad, what is the state of the Kool-Aid Factory now that we are undefeated in Big 12 play?
Man, there has never been a time where I've been more excited to talk about the Kool-Aid Factory than right now. This is the highest of highs for us so far. We're just climbing the mountain. We don't know how high we're going to go, but we do know that Tucson tea had a massive impact on the win you had last night. I'll just show you my famous bottle that I've had, and as you can tell, it is empty. I have none left. I drank it all. And that's probably how many of you are feeling. So the Kool-Aid Factory is doing well. We are climbing to new heights of production, and we may even have we may even go public. We may even allow Red Raiders to buy stock in the Kool-Aid Factory. We may open that up next week or the week after if things keep going the way they are. But Kool-Aid Factory, I mean, there's nothing like it in all of college football, all of college basketball, and we're going to enjoy the time that we have when things are going well, because things can change really quick, but we're going to enjoy it when it's going really well. So that Tucson tea worked, and we're gonna keep it going the rest of this year as well.
It worked, man. And since the Broadway Shuffle has started, and since we started the Kool-Aid Factory, Texas Tech is 5-1. So if you're wondering how long we've been going since about August 25th, I think. So this is our first ever football season to do this podcast. And so I don't know if it's a correlation to the hype that we're bringing with the Kool-Aid Factory or not. I don't want to take all the credit for the hard work the boys are doing on the football field, but Conrad, you might want to take a little more. And so Zyler, man, with that, let's get right into the recap. Offensively, you stalled for a while there, but like we talked about last week, you found a way to win. And so what were your overall thoughts and notes on the offensive side of the ball and just the game in general? But specifically, I want to see, your thoughts on Barron and where the offense kind of hit a lull there in the game, but ultimately found a way to find enough points to win the game by 6.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, decent performance from a schematic perspective. I didn't think your game plan was bad. I think some of your execution was maybe a little bit poor in the third quarter. You got to credit Arizona for making plays. Taj never fumbles. That's something that he's been really reliable on, and he coughs it up twice in on our side of the field, and they capitalize. So that was pretty unfortunate, and not something that I think other defenses are going to be able to bank on. But I thought we had in the first half a really good plan of attack. A lot of the stuff that we were getting to the outside in our run game, and then how we were attacking the middle of that defense was really, really good. I thought Barron was, hitting passes. The one to Micah down at the 2 or 3 yard line was excellent. You got him busted up in a coverage, and he hit him in stride. It was a great throw. I thought you did a lot of really good things on offense. Even if you did make some big mistakes, Barron tried to turn the ball over a couple times. He had 2 balls that were, very close to being intercepted in that third quarter when you were kind of reeling, probably some poor decisions there. But overall, he did enough to win you the game. I thought it was an improvement over the Washington State game. I definitely wouldn't say that he played good. I think it was a below average performance for Barron standards and then Texas Tech standards. But, eventually he did enough to win you the game. He made big plays when it counted. The Caleb Douglas throw in the fourth quarter was excellent. And then he almost had a touchdown to Douglas in the back of the end zone, which would have been really nice too. But, Barron improved over Washington State. I was still probably a little bit disappointed in him. I don't know what your guys' thoughts were there.
Yeah, Conrad.
Yeah, Barron, he did not play his best game. I think we know that. We've seen him at a pretty high level this year in several games, but I do think he played well overall in the sense that he did what you needed him to do. It wasn't a Heisman worthy performance or anything like that. He didn't carry you, but he did what he needed to do, and you just got to get lucky sometimes. And that's exactly what happened on those 2 balls in the third quarter that Zyler alluded to. I was scared as can be. I thought both of those were getting picked off, and thankfully that they did not catch those. So was pleased with his performance in the sense that he didn't do anything on the stat sheet necessarily that would have caused you to lose. If one of those balls had been picked off, this may be a different conversation, but he played well in that sense that he didn't turn the ball over. Well, and is relative, but I think you do have something to build on, and it was an improvement over Washington State. And you can say you went on the road and won a game, and your quarterback didn't cost it for you. So if he can do that on the road and you win those games like that, and then you come home and he throws 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns and you win, I'll be happy there. So I thought his performance was good overall. Brennan, what do you think?
Yeah, if I would have told you before the game that Taj would have 2 fumbles on your own end of the field, Barron would not throw a touchdown pass, throw for less than 250 yards, you probably would have been like, okay, we lost that game by 2 scores. Like that means that, because you would have assumed the defense would have given up, I think, more than they did. And we'll get into the defense, and we have a lot to talk about there because they did a phenomenal job. But with Barron specifically, it's not impressive, but the guy does find a way to win. We've talked about this. I mean, I think you're 9-2 when Barron starts and finishes a game. He doesn't put your team in the position that we saw Shuck necessarily put them in last year, where you're turning the ball over, you're throwing bad interceptions, you're missing reads. He put a couple balls into trouble for sure, but he also made beautiful throws. The ball to Douglas down the sideline in the first half was unbelievable. I mean, he dropped that where only Douglas could get it on the sideline. And then obviously the back shoulder throw in the fourth quarter was a great job by Douglas coming back to the ball, but Barron put it where only Douglas could get that ball. And I do think that you're seeing the ability that Barron has. He's still adjusting. I mean, we've got to get, this guy's been injured for the last 2 seasons. He hasn't played in a lot of games where he started and finished. And yeah, the road woes will be worrisome if he continues to play like that on the road, because you'll need him to produce the more that you play meaningful games against TCU, Iowa State, even Oklahoma State, though they're struggling. You will need Barron to play better than that. But for your team to find a way to win in that environment late at night, kudos to Barron for just managing the unfortunate fumbles that you had, and to not freak out like we've seen QBs do in the past in those situations. So in the end, we got the win. That's all that matters. You find a way to win the road. It's a great win. Not in love with Barron's performance, not necessarily over concerned with it either. I just hope that when we get to TCU, he finds a way to play a little more effectively within the passing game.
Yeah. I thought something schematically that we should definitely point out. One, I'll point to the Arizona staff and say that they did not do a great job managing this game from like a win optimization standpoint. But then two, I thought your staff did an excellent job. You stole 5 points in the first half. Getting the ball down 30 seconds in a very Leach-esque fashion. You said, F it, let's go try to score. We're not going to run this out. We're not just going to take this, it was 15-3, I think, at that point, right? You said,
Yep.
Yeah, let's go see if we can get some more. And you took that shot and you took it on to Cario Davis, their, NFL corner, and you hit a play. I thought that was really, really gutsy. And then the 2-point conversion, looking at that, adding 5 points to your total there totally changes the complexion of the game. If you're kicking a field goal to, tie it versus take the lead down there, that changes how they call the game. And I thought the coaching staff deserved a lot of credit for, kind of putting it out there and saying, hey, let's go try to win one here. Let's not just sit back and, just be thankful with the 2-possession lead that we have. Let's see if we can add some more. And so I think our staff deserves a lot of credit for that. Something I did want to bring up was the punt on 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter. That seemed very anti-Joey in the way that he's called games the last 2 years. I was almost positive that we were going to go for that. We punted and it ended up working out. But thoughts on that? Were you okay with that punt? I was kind of 50-50. I was hoping they were going to go for it. I felt like your defense had been on the field a lot. But what were y'all's thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I know we're used to Joey going for that, but when you see that you're 3 of 10 on 4th downs this season in your own territory, your defense was playing well. I think we've become accustomed to seeing Joey go for that, but I actually liked it. I know that the announcer, I'm blanking on his name, the former Oregon coach,
Mark Helfrich.
Yep, Helfrich. Like he was like happy that we actually did that because he felt our defense was playing well. And I think at the time you're like, man, is Joey trusting what he's doing now, like his analytical decisions? But at the same time, it just worked out extremely well because you forced them to go down the field, you got the stop, and then you went and capitalized on the miss. And so I actually did think that with how the game, it was just feeling the game out. Like it wasn't like it's analytical 4th and 1, let's go. He was like, hey, I've seen enough of this game to feel confident that we can get a stop and trust our scheme. And we did that. So I actually did not hate it as much as I think a lot of people were at the time of like, it's 4th and 1 to go get a yard, hand it to Taj. You actually played it out and it ended up working out well for you. And we're happy he did it now. Because if you don't get that, it's now, under 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Arizona's got the ball in plus territory, and you're just setting up your defense to fail. Getting it all the way down the field, you gave them enough opportunities to get a stop. And I thought that was a smart decision at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love having these conversations that are hypothetical after the fact that you won the game. And so I really don't care because we won. But it is interesting knowing that he normally goes for that, but didn't in that situation. So I think it worked out the way it was supposed to. And I would love to hear more of his thought process on that. I'm not sure if he spoke on that in the post-game presser or not, but I do think it was an interesting situation. What did he say?
No, he didn't say anything about that.
Okay. Maybe they'll ask him tomorrow since it's a bye week, but yeah, that'll be interesting to see. And I will say as well about the offense as a whole, it was so cool to see Taj bounce back from those couple fumbles because as Zyler said earlier, he doesn't fumble the ball. If you're a Red Raider fan and you were sitting there watching this thinking Taj Brooks just fumbled the ball, you were probably thinking, what just happened? Because that's not something that we see from him. You feel pretty confident that either that he's never going to put the ball on the ground, but he did. And I did hear Joey say in the post-game press conference that he didn't really say anything to Taj because Taj knows Taj knows what to do. He's the best back in the country. I'll stand on that. I'll stand on that ground. I don't know if y'all would, but he's incredible, and so he knows what he did wrong. He knows that he shouldn't do that, and that those were unforced errors. But when you've got a back like that, and you can come back and ice it the way he did, I mean, that's something you really have to appreciate while you have it.
There's a running back in. Oh, sorry, Z. There's a running back at Boise State that I think might beg to differ on who the best running back in the country is, but we'll give you Taj for today.
The difference is he doesn't wear red and black, so our guy wears red and black, and he plays for the greatest university on the face of the planet. And so I don't even know the last time Boise State was really relevant at football. Maybe it was well, I shouldn't have said that because it may have been
I was about to say,
sooner rather
I
than
think they're
later.
ranked.
Boise State
but
is ranked
yeah,
and have had more success in the last 20 years than you
but they play in
probably
the
have.
but they
No,
play in the Mountain West, don't they? Are they still in the Mountain West?
No, they're going to be
I
in the
think
Pac-12.
they're going to
Well,
be in
now
the
they will be in the
Pac-12,
Pac.
but
They will
they
be,
are,
but now they're in the Mountain
yeah,
West. Yeah, that's
yeah.
like Matt Wells' success at Utah State being counted as like amazing. Sorry to bring that up, but
Uh, fair
no,
enough,
Boise's a good
Zyler.
program. Our guy just wears red and black, so I like him.
Fair
I
enough,
respect that
Zyler.
comment.
What were you going to say?
Speaking of win optimization, Taj should have gone down before he got into the end zone. That would have been the only real gripe that I had. But I get it, man. It probably felt really good to see that hole open up like that. He doesn't get many opportunities to run through, a defense and score. I don't blame him for doing that. But if you drop that onside kick, you feel a little bit differently about how that played out. So
Do we feel like Taj is like how many carries that he's getting plays into the fumbles at all? Or like, do you think it was just 2 times you just got punched out? Like, is it fatigue at all? Would you like to see Dickey getting a little more carries just to kind of give Taj a break? Or do you think it was just happenstance that he fumbled twice in the same half?
Yeah, I think when you look at Taj, you need to look at, fumbles per carry. That's going to be a much better stat for him than like overall fumbles. I know they still count the same, but he's carrying more than basically anybody in the country. So you can't always just look at, raw turnover statistics. I'd probably like to see Dickey maybe 3 or 4 more plays a game, and then maybe Jacoby Williams for a couple pass downs. But Taj is playing so well right now. It's hard to justify taking him off the field.
Yeah, and I'm only thinking from a fatigue purpose. And I might not have, it might not be a thing at all. I was just curious if maybe that consistent wear and tear, maybe you've gotten hit a little more, you're a little looser with the football, you're a little more tired. I just, because it's just so unlike him to see him fumble twice in one game, much less fumble at all. And I'm not saying that you take him out. I just was curious if you guys might have thought about that and had any feelings on that.
Well, I do think it was interesting knowing that he's human, so he's going to get tired, and taking the kind of hits he's taken. I mean, I don't think it'd be outlandish to maybe suggest that fatigue maybe played a factor in it just from last week and this week together. Not saying that's a for sure thing, but it could have been. I will say though that those both, I think both of them, the Arizona defensive player was extremely aggressive in going for the ball, which players aren't always, and so I think that played a factor that they were just really trying to do it to get that ball out, and they did a couple times because they were aggressive about it. But it's just something
that's
that,
high risk.
I don't know.
Yeah. High risk, high reward with Taj, because if you don't go at him with the intent to tackle him, there's a good chance he breaks that tackle. He's just so hard to get down already. So it worked out. They took a gamble, and it played in their favor. Speaking of gambles, though, I'd love to transition into the defense, and that was the unit that I think won the game for you tonight. Brennan, did you have thoughts there? I'll kind of let you kick it off.
Dude, I mean, you just look at how hard they played. And I think that's the thing, they did not make mistakes or they didn't beat themselves. Like you had a few big runs where they got through a couple gaps, had some 25 plus runs. McMillan had a couple big catches, but you did not give up the big play, the momentum changing play. You forced 5 field goals. There was just like, I think to see those young guys, they were flying around, they were gang tackling. And my biggest takeaway was the linebacker core. We finally saw what we were talking about in the offseason and into the season is this might have been your best position group that we thought we had coming into the year. And they played like it last night. Ben Roberts, Jacob Rodriguez, there was a middle. They did not let anything get past them. And the corners actually covered well. I mean, there was a couple of plays where like Lux was knocking the ball out of McMillan's hands. Rodriguez was forcing the fumble. I mean, that unit was flying around. Credit to DeRuyter. He had them ready to go. I was just overall impressed with their effort and not having any blown assignments. It felt like the whole game, I didn't necessarily feel like there was a ton of blown assignments where they didn't know where they were on the field. They didn't know who in zone coverage, who they're matching up with. Baskerville was phenomenal covering the back end. He had the awesome pick. I mean, you forced 3 turnovers. I will say one thing after watching this, I don't think Fafita is nearly as good as he was getting credit for last season. He missed some guys crossing that were wide open, on some reads. He was kind of eyeing down a couple receivers, but nonetheless, I mean, shout out to the defense, man, because this was something coming in. It's like you felt like Arizona was going to get theirs and you had to match it, and your offense struggled for a good portion of that game, and your defense hung tough and found a way to get enough stops to win. And I mean, that was not something I expected. And it gives me a lot of confidence moving forward. You're seeing a lot of these young guys get meaningful snaps and meaningful minutes, and this only bodes well for you if you can stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, imagine if you could, get more healthy over the next couple weeks before you play Baylor, and get these guys some rest, and then get back some of the guys that you're missing. I do need to mention, as I mentioned last night, Quincy Ledet had an interception that I think was absolutely glorious. And watching him run down the field, I was just like, Quincy, man, get in the end zone, run a little faster. But I guess we got to take what we can get there. I thought the defense. I'm just so much of defense is effort, and they just did not stop. I mean, they just did not stop. They did not give up. I didn't see any guys pull off tackles. They finished through the whistle. CJ was phenomenal, but Jacob Rodriguez, I mean, that guy, I think he finished as the top graded linebacker in college football yesterday, which is absolutely unreal. And he was such a big part of why you won that game. He got that sack on their first possession, and he just continued to thrive throughout the entire game. So he would, if we did player of the game on this podcast for the defense, he would definitely be my defensive player of the game, because he was just your engine. He never stopped, and he kept you going, and the whole team just they played so well. And it's so funny thinking back on what we said about the defense after Washington State and ACU, and now we're sitting here thinking, yeah, they're pretty much the reason you won. They're a huge, obviously you need both sides of the ball, but they're a huge reason you actually did win that game. So that was super fun to see them play well.
Yeah, they are the reason that you won that game yesterday. They're the 100% the reason that you won a road game in the Big 12. If you would have told me that after week 2, I would have said you're delusional. You're drinking too much Kool-Aid. But they did it. So
too much Cougar juice.
Yeah, too much Cougar juice. Zyler, thoughts?
Yeah, I think you were both right. Wow, Conrad, that thing was loaded up.
Conrad's got that Tucson tea. He's chugged it. It's empty. Look at it. He can't even.
Yeah, it blew up. It blew up, kind of like the Wildcats last night.
Yeah, I thought you both made excellent points. Jacob Rodriguez absolutely deserves a game ball. I mean, 92.1 on the PFF grade is ludicrously high. 60 to 70 is considered like a pretty decent performance, and to get up in the 90s is pretty much unheard of for anybody at any position. So he forced that deflection that Quincy caught. He forced the fumble on Tedero McMillan. He had a sack. He was in the backfield. He was 100% the best player on the field last night whenever your defense was on the field. And so hats off to him. Excellent performance. You can't really ask for much more than what he did there. I thought Roberts was fine in run support. I really liked what they were doing with Dingle, getting him free rushes up the middle. He is incredibly fast. And what you did to Fafita in the first half, where you were getting free shot after free shot, even though they didn't always develop into sacks, you absolutely spooked him, and he was worried. You could see he'd have clean pockets on our 3-man rushes, and he'd sprint out, and it was like, man, he eliminated half the field and we didn't even get home. Like that, I thought that was really good by DeRuyter. You eliminated a lot of the middle of the field routes, even though he did get some stuff in the second half. And in the context of the defensive performance is even more impressive. So you had Amir Washington was out, Chapman Lewis was out, Isaac Smith was out, Jalen Peoples was out, Joseph Plunk was out. I mean, you had 6 or 7 guys in your 2 deep and 4 starters that were out, and you still managed to do something like that. Very, very impressive. Braylon Lux, Brennan, just your eye test didn't deceive you. When he was on McMillan, he was targeted 5 times, only allowed 1 reception. So very excellent performance from Braylon Lux. He definitely helps your cornerback room, and he played incredibly well for you. I was just really impressed. And then you had Devin Cromwell, who has played cornerback for you, and we spun him up to free safety because you had so many guys, and he plays 70 plus snaps. Baskerville plays the whole game, every single defensive snap for you. You had a lot of guys put in really, really good efforts, and especially in that second half. We've seen so many Tech defenses like, okay, they put up a good performance in the fourth quarter, they get gassed, they're too tired, and it's just like, you can't really do anything about it. And they didn't. That didn't happen. I was really impressed. Bryce Ramirez, I thought, did some really good stuff for you, especially in the first half. He was playing off the edge and getting pressure. Wanted to give a shout out to maybe an unknown guy for some of our listeners, but Terrell Tillman, a walk-on for us, came in and in the fourth quarter ultimately had that sack on Noah Fafita. That's how down bad your edge rushers are. you had walk-ons in there, and he had an excellent rep on that left tackle. Got home, got the sack, made him kick a field goal, and then we ultimately won the game. Once again, Mikkel Dingle, I thought he was really good. He struggles sometimes in run fits, but when you ask him to go get the passer, he is excellent. They did a wonderful job. I will say this: I don't think that Arizona OC has a great idea of what he's trying to do with the offense. They get past the 40 and they feel like they need to take end zone shots for whatever reason. I was not impressed with what they did with Fafita and what they did with McMillan. He got a lot of targets or a lot of receptions, but it was on a ton of targets. Fafita was missing guys. It's basically, hey, we either hit Fafita or we hit Burnett, and that's it. I did not like what they were doing schematically. I'd be very frustrated if I was an Arizona fan. So you do have to give something there. You'd look at the all 22 on some of the plays and you'd be like, oh my gosh, that dude is wide open in the middle of the field, and Fafita's throwing an interception in the end zone. And like, so I do think we have to consider some of those things, but given what Arizona gave you, I thought you capitalized really well. The defense 100% won you the game last night.
And we just haven't seen this the last couple of years. I mean, this staff is starting to find a way to win games. I mean, it's just as simple as that, where we have not been accustomed to that in the last 10 years. We would be in a game like this and find a way to lose. And credit to Joey for everything that's been said about the offensive coordinator, Kitley, and some of the staff and DeRuyter. I mean, week to week, everyone's opinion changes. It's fire the coach, fire the offense, bench Bear. I mean, every week you hear these things, but the reality is you're 5-1, you're 3-0 in the Big 12. And when's the last time you could say that? Over a decade ago. And so put your opinions aside. The defense found a way to win the game. They played balls to the wall. They went 110%. They didn't give up, because I kept sitting there thinking, okay, if you don't score here, the defense is going to get gassed at some point. Like, you got to go score here. Punt, 3 and out, punt, fumble. And I'm like, okay, we can't keep letting this happen. And the defense said, no, watch this, guys. We are okay. And they held their ground. I mean, that was probably the best defensive performance with the players that you've had on the field that I can remember at Tech in a very long time. Walk-ons are out there. Redshirt freshmen are out there. Guys that have played almost no meaningful snaps. And the pressure you got on Fafita, I was like, what defense am I watching? Who am I watching out there right now? It was, I just I'm so giddy even talking about it today. It's just unbelievable, the effort. So, Conrad, give me that Tucson team, man. Bring it. I need to go get my jug. I got to start chugging. It is, oh man, what a game. I mean, we talked about sorry, go ahead.
We will be producing in limited quantities this week and next before we release our new flavor. So you can get some limited quantities, but go ahead, Brennan.
I was going to say, we talked about what this means for your program and what is now in front of you with a bye week and then Baylor at home. Zyler, have your expectations now changed 6 games in? Like, are you starting to think maybe there's a chance we're playing in Arlington? Or are you like, I still got to see a lot more?
Yeah, man. One, hat to the staff. You found a way to win 3 games. That's great. Analytically, your profile. And so what are you going to be expected to do from win percentages and lines and things like that? You haven't improved that much since the Arizona State game. I think in SP Plus, you were 59th. And then this week, after last night's result, you're like 53rd. So you've won 3 games, but you've won them by, what was Arizona State? 8. Cincinnati was 3. This game was 6. So you haven't necessarily been, blowing teams out. I think you kind of are who you are. I don't know that this is a top 25 team, but they've found ways to win. And I think the Big 12 is full of teams just like that. Now, I think your easiest Big 12 games are probably behind you. You've got, tougher teams. You've got Baylor, you've got TCU, which, they haven't performed necessarily super well, but they're still analytically rated more highly than any of the teams you've played so far. You beat Baylor, you're 4-0. We'll kind of see. I'm just really proud of what they've done so far. I'm enjoying it. I remember Chris Level said one time, when the basketball team was going on some of their runs, like, enjoy the wins. Don't worry about too much, on the next game as a fan. Enjoy the wins. Let the season fall how it may. But I'm really happy. I'm really proud with the way they've performed, especially given the way that we started. We've said this about DeRuyter, man. As soon as he gets film on you, he's just a really savvy coach. He knows. I mean, he schooled Matt Adkins last night. How many times did Adkins try to run it back up the middle or just do a little something off the left side, and we stonewalled it? I don't know how many times. I'd be pulling my hair out if I was an Arizona fan. It was ridiculous how DeRuyter just kind of outclassed him in every single aspect.
Yep. Conrad?
Yeah, in terms of what this means for your program, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you have a pretty simple path to Arlington because you won your first 3 games. You can lose a couple, which I think you probably will because of the nature of the Big 12, unless you go on a TCU type run from 2 years ago and win every close game, which you have done that over the last 10 or so games. But it just depends if you keep that going or not. I do think the bye week came at a really good time for your program. You can get healthier. You can give guys time off. Can you imagine having to play a game next Saturday and having just gotten back to Lubbock at like 5, 6 a.m. today?
Yeah.
Typically Sunday is a pretty big recovery review day. Joey said last night in the post-game press conference that he gave them the day off, which I thought was amazing because those guys have to be absolutely gassed right now just from playing in that time zone. And so in terms of what that looks like for your team going forward, you've got a shot. You've got a real shot. You keep improving. You fix some of the things. You get healthy. Baylor does not scare me. TCU absolutely does not scare me. I mean, they lost to Houston. So if you're a TCU fan, you're listening to this podcast, I am so sorry for your loss. Not really, but we'll give you another one here in a couple weeks. So you got those 2 games, and then you've got, Iowa State, that scares me a lot. Oklahoma State at home does not scare me. It actually excites me if Alan Bowman is playing for you or playing for them.
I don't think you're going to get Bowman.
I hope
it's so frustrating. I don't think you get Bowman. He's getting benched.
No, he for sure is. But maybe they can play Tyler Shuck against us, and we can take him out too. But you do all that to say you have a path, and you just got to take it one game at a time. You're winning games, and you never know what can happen if you stay consistent.
Yep.
Yeah. Before we move on, I'll say this: if you beat Baylor. And I don't want to go all 6 games. I'm just saying if you beat Baylor at home, which is a big game for you now, and then you just go split TCU, Iowa State, you're coming back home to Colorado with 1 loss in the conference in November. Talk about the atmosphere we could be experiencing in Lubbock that weekend if we have 1 loss in the conference. And that's a very real possibility if you take care of business at home and find a way to split TCU, Iowa State. I'm not going to go past that. I'm just saying that is a possibility if you can find a way to go 2-1 your next 3 games.
Can you imagine before the season, talking to somebody and saying, hey, the Texas Tech Colorado game in Lubbock is going to have Big 12 title game implications?
Yeah.
That's such a crazy outcome.
Crazy
which it may
outcome.
end up not.
Yeah, but, and we've been there. To get off the high horse for a second, I'm all about positivity. But in 2013, to reference that season, we were 7-0. We went into Norman, as the 10th ranked team in the country. We almost beat them actually, but then you end up losing, your next 5 games, and you find a way to win. The Holiday Bowl with Davis Webb as your quarterback to get to 8 wins. But that was the last time we've been in anything like this. So I don't see a cliff type drop off with this team. I don't see us going, 2-4 on the back half of the season, but to go 4-2, to go 5-1, still going to be difficult. I don't want to lock it in like, hey, we're going to, we're running there, but you do have a possibility of actually playing a meaningful game in November for the conference, which you have not had in a long time. And that is exciting. And none of us thought we'd be here after 2 weeks into the season. So kudos to the team and to the coaching staff for just getting yourself in this position moving into the month of October.
Yep.
Yeah. And
enjoy the week off.
And please get rest. And hopefully that injury report, when we're going over it a week and a half from now, we'll see some guys coming back to play, or at least guys that have gotten healthier, where they're fully healthy and not questionable going into the game. And one other shout out before we move on, shout out to Gino Garcia, man. The kicking game, it's been weird. It's been goofy. We've seen Burkhart, we've seen Gino, we've seen Burkhart do shovel passes for 2-point conversions. I mean, we've seen all sort of different crazy things in the special teams, but shout out to the special teams coaching staff. And yes, And shout out to Gino, man, for just being he is perfect on the season, and that was a clutch field goal that he made,
Yeah.
and that really did win us the game. So I don't know if he's officially won the competition. I don't even know if there is a competition at this point. They might just be rolling with them. They trust both of them. They've both been lights out. So that's something that's great to see. And shout out to Gino. So awesome, guys. Well, where we were right and where we were wrong. Zyler, man, I'm gonna start with you, dude, because you you picked us to lose again, and thank God you were wrong. Okay. So and there's Conrad. If you can't see us and you're just listening to us, Conrad has found a magic button that we call it, where he's now found some sound effects that he likes to play. So that's what that is. We're not we don't really know when he's going to do it. So you're just as surprised as we are when he does it. But that's what Conrad has full control over that. So, but Z, yeah. So Zyler, you were wrong this week. You had Arizona beating us 38-28. And so thank you for that incorrect call. Conrad, you and I both had Texas Tech winning, which is awesome. And so we were right this week. And then Clayton, our fellow Broadway Shuffle host, who is out, unfortunately, today, also had Arizona winning. So 2 for 2 on us, which is awesome. So that is where we were right and where we were wrong in the week. And everyone, make sure you can comment in the YouTube your predictions for the upcoming games as well. We'd love to see what our fans are thinking every week for the Texas Tech football team. So news and notes from around the country, or specifically around the Big 12. You had a crazy, I guess, to touch on the country quickly, you had 5 teams in the top 11 lose. Bama loses to Vandy on the road. Tennessee loses to Arkansas on the road. Michigan, USC go down. Mizzou, yeah. Mizzou goes down. Miami should have gone down, but found a way to win against Cal. So the country, it was a crazy day in college football. But specifically in the Big 12, Conrad, you referenced it. Houston takes down TCU in Fort Worth. Iowa State took care of Baylor at home. West Virginia stomps Oklahoma State. Alan Bowman with another very poor effort in that one. And then UCF lost to Florida, which was a little surprising. I mean, you never know what to make of Florida. Like, they're pretty dog water when it comes to the SEC, but they actually looked pretty good. And UCF is what we thought was a pretty good team in the Big 12. So there kind of goes the interconference dynamic of like which conference. How do you look at each conference? So Florida,
UCF is a one-trick pony. If they cannot run the ball, KJ Jefferson is not well equipped to do anything else. Their offense struggles a ton. So, we thought that may be the case, but we didn't think it would be necessarily that bad.
Right. And then Kansas loses another heartbreaker on the road to Arizona State. Kansas has had the lead in the fourth quarter, I think, in all of their losses this season, which is wild. And they're 1-5. So
they're basically the inverse of you. Like you've done the exact opposite, and they're very close to being exactly what you are this season. But you've won the games and they've lost them.
Yeah, and so that was your Big 12 slate. You had some teams on byes, and so there wasn't anything too crazy. I mean, West Virginia is smoking Oklahoma State. What do we make quickly? I mean, we talk about it and we kind of kid about it, but y'all have already mentioned him in the show. But Alan Bowman, man, I mean, do you feel for the guy? Like, is it kind of like God, this is like tough to watch, or are you just like enjoying the failure that's happening?
I mean, I don't know that I have like feelings for a football player.
You 100% have feelings for certain football players.
Conrad, you have more feelings for football players than any man I know.
Certain ones. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, the greatest football player ever to play. We can have that conversation later. But it doesn't really. I mean, Allen was good when he was here. I'm not mad. Like, I don't feel bad for him. I mean, you're in your 7th year of college football. You should be really good. Like, you should be Cam Rising level good when you're actually on the field. But instead, he's, not very good at all. And so really feel for him because he's the reason that they're not winning more games, because they do have a good roster overall. They're not a terrible team by any stretch, and their quarterback has just been so bad. That's why they're not winning games. So looking at that game, those are my thoughts. I do not feel bad for him at all, to be honest.
You know who I really don't feel bad for is Sonny Dykes down in TCU. That is someone I feel absolutely zero sympathy for.
Me too, man.
Why do you say that?
He's 5-7 in his last 12 games, by the way.
Yeah, that is crazy. So is Lincoln Riley, oddly enough.
Oh, yeah. And there's a guy that Conrad does have feelings for, by the way.
He's a Red Raider. You should all have feelings for him. He doesn't trash tech and recruiting like Sonny Dykes.
So is Sonny Dykes.
Sonny Dykes trashes tech. Sonny Dykes is like, I'll stop there, just for the benefit of everyone.
Yeah,
involved.
TCU Hate Week is coming soon. We'll save our answer.
Well, let me speak to that, because we are talking about, the Big 12, and the reality is, man, we've got two teams coming up that I, for one, and I don't know about you guys, but I, for one, do not care for at all. The two private Christian schools in Texas. And I am just really excited to see what we look like against those teams, and those teams look bad. So we'll see what happens there. But I was laughing on Friday night when I saw Houston losing to Houston beating TCU, and then yesterday I watched the Iowa State Baylor game, so that was interesting. But I will say I did wait until today, until we won, to make fun of them on social media, because you can't do that unless you win. And so I waited until today. But if you don't follow us on Instagram, you can experience us making fun of other teams when we win. So go follow us at the Broadway Shuffle Pod.
Who do y'all think is better, TCU or Baylor?
I'm gonna lean at TCU. Barely lean TCU.
I think I do too. Like 3.5 point favorite at our neutral.
I'm not going to pick either one of them for anything.
Conrad's disdain for Baylor and TCU is just comical to me, because like I've never looked at them like the rivals of the hate. It's always been, I mean, at least for Tech, like Texas, OU, Oklahoma State, A&M back in the day. I've never considered like TCU, and then Conrad is here, just like absolutely cannot stand them as universities. I love it, because now they kind of are the teams that you want to beat in Texas, to now that Texas is gone. But it is it's just so funny, man. Conrad, what is it like? Did you not get accepted to them? Like, did you apply and not get in? Like, what is the level of disdain for TCU and Baylor?
So number one, I have no problem saying this publicly, because very few people can. I could never have afforded either one of those schools. So there's more behind it that, I don't really feel comfortable divulging right now. I'm working to the point where I can say it on the internet for everyone to see forever. But we've got some. I've got.
His TCU is going to come out.
I've got a bye week this week to get ready for that. And so, I don't know necessarily. Well, I do know why, but I'll share that, or maybe I won't. But it's interesting seeing, I just think both of them, and now TCU went to a national title, so they can say it a little bit more. Both of them think that they're just the greatest football programs on the face of the earth. And they seemingly sometimes have UT level arrogance, which annoys me to no end. And so that's, I think, where it started in 2014 and 15 with Baylor, and then TCU obviously more recently. But and also for me, my first painful memory as a Texas Tech fan was that loss against TCU in 2015. And so I think that I've never gotten over that. And so I'm still processing through that, and I'll probably be processing through it for my entire life. But, some things happen, and that's okay.
Z, it's nice hearing that Conrad's first painful memory was in 2015. It's like I could go back to
I got scar tissue.
Yeah, I could go back to TCU beating us like 13-10 in 2006. And it's like, oh my gosh, like when they were in the Mountain West. But Conrad, so at least you have a little less scar tissue than we do when it comes to this program. But we accept the hate, man. I don't like them either. I love the fact that you dog on them as much as you do. It makes it a lot better for us. So.
Well, we can't dog on, Texas and OU anymore. We've got to we've got to just throw our hate somewhere else. And I mean, that's why we introduced the Tommy Tuberville segment, is because we have to do that. That's just what good fans do. And so that's what we've decided to do for us and for our fan base. So,
dude, speaking of, there are some very good contenders for Tommy Tuberville of the week. So if any of you have any additional suggestions, it's going to be tough to pick some this week. So, drop them in the comments, shoot me a DM, whatever you got to do to get your Tommy Tuberville mention on the pod this Wednesday.
Yeah, and we will also be, since Clayton couldn't be on, we will be moving the Tommy Tuberville segment to Sunday episode or Monday morning episodes. We record on Sundays, but when on a Monday morning episode. So enjoy it for Thursday this week, but expect it on Mondays at the end of this week as well. So yeah, lots of candidates. I can't wait to see who we come up with. None of us know until the day. Conrad literally stole mine last episode, and I had no idea. So you never know who we're going to put out there for the Tommy Tuberville fraud of the week. So but awesome, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Baylor hate week coming up, TCU hate week. And you know what's crazy before we move on from that is 2 years ago, people were seriously being like, why didn't we hire Sonny Dykes?
Yeah, I know.
Like that was an actual thought that they're playing for the national championship. And it's like, we just hired Joe McGuire and went 7-6 and, or 8-5. And, TCU's playing for a national title game. People were like seriously wondering, like, should we have hired Sonny Dykes? So I'm thankful we didn't at this point.
Yep. Let me ask you this. Does anybody in the Big 12 scare you at this point?
Yes.
Iowa State.
Iowa State.
Okay. Dude, hey, did y'all see those jerseys? Those were sick that they wore with the Cyclone script on their helmets. Those were nice.
Hates their school colors more than Iowa State does. They love wearing all white and all black. They hate when they have to wear red and yellow.
Yeah, because they look like McDonald's.
I have never noticed that.
Nobody hates it more than they do. No, I think
it is a wild place.
West Virginia looked good against Oklahoma State. I mean, you have a good run defense, so that doesn't scare me as much. Like that's what they just love to do. They love to run the ball. I think you can counter a lot of what they do defensively. As far as teams, I think Colorado will be an interesting matchup for your secondary. You desperately need to be healthy for that game. So,
yeah, and West Virginia, that Pitt loss they had doesn't look nearly as bad now. I mean, Pitt's undefeated, so we kind of expected them. I know Zyler and I were higher on them than Clayton and Conrad, you as well, but I thought they'd be in the conversation come November. It looks like they are trending that way. They have some tough games. They have a tougher schedule than you do in the Big 12. So it'll be interesting to see. But at home, Thanksgiving, I'm not as scared of them. If you lay out the schedule in front of me and I had to pick one where I'm like, I have no confidence in us winning that game, it would be Iowa State. As of now, things can change, but that's the game I'm most scared of. The home games on your schedule don't scare me, and then Oklahoma State right now doesn't appear to be too scary. I mean, you just never know. But right now, I wish that Bowman would play. I'd be more scared if he doesn't play, actually. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Well, man.
Well, I hear he's got a new job on his hands. He's got a new job, so he can leave at any time. I hear.
You know what we should do? We should DM a recruiter at Goosehead and give them a reference and and see if they would LinkedIn DM them, or even if we could just get them to do that. Hey, Miss Recruiter at Goosehead, I've got a great candidate for your Oklahoma City branch or whatever, and see if
his name's A. Bowman.
A. Bowman. That'd be great to see if they'd reach out to him. But anyways, well, we will be back on Thursday, and we're going to have a special episode Thursday. We're all going to take a breather from football. We're riding high, but there is another sport right around the corner, and basketball season is quickly approaching, and we are very excited for basketball and the team that we have coming up in the gauntlet that will be Big 12 basketball this year. So we're going to go ahead and sneak in a preview for basketball Thursday. So tune in for that. We're really excited to discuss that, and we're going to have some fun guests on for basketball this year as well, too, that I think you as Texas Tech fans will want to hear from, that you've probably missed, haven't seen in some time. And I'll drop that little nugget there. We look forward to having them on the show, and then we'll be back next month. Yeah, maybe. He hasn't responded to my text, but we'll see. Then Mark Adams is coming back on the show. Yeah,
together. They're coming together.
We're gonna have a therapy session. We're gonna have a Broadway.
It's a surprise date.
Yeah, it's a surprise. They don't know we've sent them the link. They both get on.
Yeah.
But and then we'll be back next Monday for the Baylor Hate Week. So we're excited. So Zyler, anything, let's see, where am I? Okay. We like to end each episode with tech trivia. And we get to the end of the episodes and Z has questions about tech history. Tech, it could be anything, tech football. We've discussed punters on the show. We've gone all over the place with tech trivia. So Z, what do you have for us to close out the show today?
Yeah, so we talked a lot in the intro, or I guess when we talked about the defense, how many guys that you were out and how many different starters that you had. I actually found the number for different starting players that you've had both offensively and defensively. So if you started the season, you had 22 starters, and now you have this point. So how many guys started the game on each series? Do you know how many different starters we have had up to this point in the game? Devin Cromwell became our most recent. So you have at least 23, but do you have the number? This does not include special teams, so no kicker, no punter, nothing like that.
Man, I have no idea.
30 at least.
That's a good guess. The answer is 33. You've basically had an entire unit shift in.
Wow.
Yep.
That is great.
Can we please get them healthy this week? Just get healthy.
Through 6 games, too.
Yep, 33. So 11 new starters in 6 games. So,
wow.
Yeah, kind of, some of them have not been injury related. Buchanan, Rogers goes over there. You've had Vinny Scurry go out, different things like that. But yeah, you've definitely had a rotating cast of players on both sides of the ball.
But the one position that you have had healthy for 6 straight games is your quarterback, Baron Morton. So you can say whatever you want about the man. He's balling out, in my opinion, but he's started and finished every single game. And that is something that very few tech quarterbacks can say post Patrick Mahomes. So kudos to Baron there.
Yep.
Yeah, man, we're thankful this year. This football team's finding a way, quarterbacks staying healthy, and just everyone, I encourage you to go look at the Big 12 standings and just soak it in for the next 2 weeks because we haven't seen that in a while, and enjoy it. You're 3-0 in the conference. You're atop of the Big 12 halfway through the season, and man, the Baylor game is a big game. I'm not going to, I mean, you win that game at home. Like, I will seriously be like, okay, you go 3-2 the rest of the way. And you're probably having a really good shot at accomplishing a goal that a lot of us didn't feel would be possible this season. So shout out to the guys, shout out to the coaching staff. Gentlemen, that was a lot of fun. I can't wait to talk basketball with y'all on Thursday and get to Baylor Hate Week as well. I already can't wait. I'm like, we have to wait 13 days to see us play again. It's going to be tough, but we'll find a way to get through it. So make sure you like and subscribe on our YouTube channel at the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast. And then you can follow all of us on social media. You can follow we have a link tree as well, where you can get all of our accounts at the Broadway Shuffle and then on X at the Broadway Shuffle. So Conrad, Zyler, we'll be whipping up some Kool-Aid here for Baylor Hate Week in a week, but let's enjoy the bye week, and I will see you guys on Thursday.
Awesome. Thanks, Brennan.
All right, guys.
Welcome.